Okay, you guys, so I am working unexpectedly at the nature center because there's a Christmas party going on, and so I'm just basically sitting at the front desk from 5 to 11 p.m. babysitting grown-ups. So I didn't expect that this was gonna happen today, so I did grab food for dinner because I didn't even know about this until after lunch today. And yeah, so basically I'm working from, like, I left my house at like 7 this morning, and I'll probably be back to my house at like midnight. I don't really know, but this is kind of fun. I'm essentially getting paid to sit here, eat food, read books, and also do some work. Do you guys think I should read in this fort tonight? Good morning. Happy Saturday. So last night, basically, well, yesterday, I'll start with yesterday. I was at work and I a little bit quit my job that involves doing reservations for the park center or the park district. Like, basically I told her that I still want to do it because I freaking love it, but I just don't like being in the middle of the woods, like late at night, completely by myself. And also I feel like financially I'm in a better state, and I just want to like live my life and not always have to work. And also the drive to that job and the amount of time I spend there makes me basically make less than minimum wage. So I kind of told her like, hey, can I either share this job with someone, so I'm doing it like 1 to 2 weekends a month instead of like every weekend during wedding season, or can I just be a substitute? And she said, yeah, so we're gonna hire someone else and figure out, like, I'm still gonna do it, it just won't be as often. Okay. Anyway, after I told her that, she was like, oh, and by the way, what are you doing tonight? So I did not have any plans Friday night, but ended up covering for another coworker who's had a hot mess of a week. Like, craziness happened, and she has covered for me so many times. Like, I definitely wanted to pay it back, but it also ended up being like the best situation. So basically I had to cover at the nature center, which was having a reservation, and they rarely have reservations because they're so expensive to have there. And basically instead of just opening, explaining things and leaving and then coming back later, I had to stay there the entire time, which basically meant ideally I would get paid to read. This is like the best case situation. So my boss was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for covering. And I was like, no, thank you so much. I get paid to read. I was like, it's kind of like when you're babysitting, when you're like, you know, a teenager or whatever, and then like the kids go to bed and you get paid to like eat food and watch movies and stuff like that. So anyway, my intention was to read, and I didn't know I was going to be doing this job. I ended up working from 7 a.m. until 11 p.m. and wasn't prepared to work that long. So number one, I did have to get takeout. And number two, like, I didn't have enough reading material. Like, luckily I always have a purse book, but you know, it wasn't enough for that number of hours. But it ended up being, they were so loud, like not over the top loud. It's just like the way their voices and stuff were echoing. It would have been hard for me to read. So I ended up doing some editing work for a few hours, like 3 hours. And then I did a lot of YouTube stuff, watching like lectures and stuff like that. So I didn't actually read, even though I was planning on starting my, what is it? The mid-month book bash? Is that what it's called? Doris's thing. Anyway, I planned to start it yesterday and that did not happen. So starting today. I do not even think I can hold tea with my left hand and try and take a video of me drinking it. I totally just spilled it all over the floor. Anyway, while I'm cleaning that up with my foot, let me tell you what I'm reading these days. So I am really close to being done with Bill Gates's book on climate change. I'll probably do like a mini review in this video once I finish. And then I don't know how this is gonna fit into, now that's what I call summer readathon. But my plan for this month is to read whatever the crap I want and make it fit, because it's my readathon, well, and Heather's, and we can do what we want to. So, although I encourage all of you to cheat as well. So, apparently Heidi and Doris are both reading Sapiens. Now, I have not invited myself to read with them, to do a buddy read. However, I do think it would be fun to read it at the same time as them, because then when I discuss it, their videos discussing it will be soon before or soon after, and yeah, we can all like be fresh in just discussing it together, even though I'm not inviting myself to be in their buddy read. I don't even know if they're doing a buddy read or if they're probably doing a buddy read. Anyway, so I have both the graphic novel and the regular version, and I think I want to figure out a way to start that today, or just start it and not care about how I'm going to start it. But anyway, I've finished the Bill Gates book first and then switched to that one. Now, the only thing standing in the way of my reading today is a bit of a little thing I have to go to. So the library board is trying to make like a strategic plan or something like this. I don't really know. And we're having a meeting today from 10:30 to 1:30. So hopefully it will be good. Hopefully everyone wears their masks. And I will still have loads of time to read today. All right, hello people. So my library thing is done for today, and I finished the Bill Gates book on climate change. I think it's called How to Prevent a Climate Disaster. I have talked about it enough where I should probably remember the title. But anyway, I took a whole bunch of notes. Basically, I listened to it as an audiobook, and it was read by Will Wheaton, which is amazing because his voice is so amazing. Like, it just reminds me of, oh gosh, what's that book? Ready Player One. I think that I listened to that as audio and he also read that. So the only problem with audio is I felt like this was a book where I wanted to like underline stuff and I obviously couldn't. So I found like on Libby how to like take bookmarks basically like throughout the audiobook, and then I basically just went back and like listened to some of those again, and then my phone stopped wanting to play the rest of them, but it's fine because like I have enough to talk about, and then I can kind of talk about like my general reactions to the book after I go through the parts that I was able to listen to again. But I will I will show you my reading journal. So at the beginning I have like all these different sections. Like this is like how many unread books I have that I need to get to, blah, blah, blah. And then I have it like color coded so that each month I can color in like what I have read, and I can kind of see how many of my own collection I read each month. So like, so far this month, I think I've read 3 books. I think that the climate change one is my 3rd book, but none of them were from my own collection, so I can't color in anything. And then I have the Read Harder Challenge, which I'm really interested in doing. And I think I'm just gonna go in order. The first thing is read a biography of an author you admire. So I was thinking of reading the Eleanor Roosevelt book, the biography that came out like last year or so. But anyway, I haven't done that yet. And then the next page is all the Oprah books from when she was actually doing her show. So none of the Oprah 2.0 ones, but just the vintage ones. And then the NPR Book Concierge books that I actually own myself. I put Shadow King on there twice by accident. Maybe that means like I should really get to reading Shadow King. And then basically each month I have this little spread where I think that I'm going to put pictures of all the books that I read, And then I'm going to keep track of something. So this month I'm keeping track of fiction and nonfiction. And obviously I forgot to fill this in. So I don't know if that might be something that I do at the end of the month. Just that way I'm not like, wait, did I color this one in? Did I not? Whatever. Anyway. And then I don't know, I might write something here like my favorites of the month or who knows, whatever. And then the next month I might track something else. Like actually February is Black History Month in the United States. So I might do something about that. Anyway, and then I want to get into more journaling with my books. So not so much like formal writing about them, but just like writing down my thoughts for each one. And so in this little box is going to go a picture of the book, but I don't have pictures yet. And so, yeah, anyway. So going back to the Bill Gates book, I will share some of my thoughts with you, but I'm just going to glance at this all the time. Yeah, so basically, I guess what I learned was like more the science behind actually like what is going on with climate change, because like this should be obvious, but I guess I just didn't really like think about it in this way, or it was a good reminder. So like, yes, I know greenhouse gases are bad and they kind of trap heat, which increases the surface of the earth. Like I feel like that was background knowledge that I knew, but it was a good reminder. And basically he said that we need to stop adding gases, but then we also need to start removing them. And so that's called net negative emissions, when you're actually like not adding anything, but also trying to clear the atmosphere or whatever. So this was new knowledge for me, that basically like I know that there's tons more storms. Well, it feels like there's more storms. And what Bill Gates was saying is like he doesn't know if there's more storms or not. Like he agrees basically that it feels like there's more. But what is true is that they're becoming more powerful. And the reason that they're becoming more powerful, this was the new information for me, is basically that like as things get hotter, it allows more water vapor to be in the air basically. And then that's how storms become more powerful, because there's like, you know, loads of water and stuff to fall from the sky in various ways or whatever. However, at the same time, where you have some places that are like being flooded and having all this crazy stuff happen, drought is also increased, which I feel like we've seen in like California and like the West Coast like for years in a row. And basically that's also caused by climate change, which again is new knowledge for me. Like I knew there was a connection. I didn't understand why there was a connection, which is basically that like as the air increases in temperature, like I just said, it can hold more water vapor. And so it's kind of like sucking all the moisture out of everything. And everything is drier. And then because it's drier, like you're more likely to get forest fires and all sorts of stuff. In addition, the sea levels rise, but the reason, I guess, like all this, I keep saying this, but like I knew all this stuff. I didn't know the why or the scientific reasoning behind it. So the sea levels are rising. That is first because the water expands as it heats up. Everything expands as it heats up, but also because then the ice caps are melting. So that adds more water. You know, that was in solid form before. And with all this stuff going on in the climate, food prices are going to rise. I think we're already seeing that. I don't know if that's a connection to climate change right now or not, but there's going to be a food crisis. And who is it going to impact the most? Like, is people that are already struggling, people living in poverty, whether that's in this country or in some other country. But the people that are the most like exposed and stuff, they're the ones that are going to have to deal with all this stuff that like the more wealthy people are causing for them basically. And then this was in addition, so we have all these people who basically like think like all these Mexicans and things, like they need to go back where they came from. They need to stay out of our country. We need to build a wall. But a lot of times, these are the people who don't recycle and don't do anything in regards to climate, because it's like making those green choices are associated with like an educated elite, a more affluent population. And because there's that image on all these choices, then all these other people, they don't want to be connected to us. They don't want to be anything like these people that care about the climate and these tree huggers and these hippies and whatever. And so they purposely rebel against recycling and stuff like that. And anyway, that increases the number of people that are going to be trying to come into our country, because it's already been proven that like as climate change occurs, that more people want to come into the country. And so like maybe if you don't want other people to come here, maybe we should consider what we can do about climate change. Anyway, I'm not saying I don't want other people to come here. I'm just saying if you think that way, maybe you should be more proactive and figure out not just how you can hold people back, but what can you do to prevent them from wanting to leave their country, or from needing to leave their country for survival purposes. The pandemic. I personally have not been impacted by the pandemic. My mom got COVID. It was a very mild case. I have not had it yet. My brother, my sister-in-law have not been touched by it yet. Nobody we're really close to in our family has passed away. Like, very lucky. This camera angle is very high. There we go. Okay. So in that regards, this pandemic, I feel like I've been touched more emotionally by it, like not necessarily being aware that my body is in this constant state of anxiety that I don't always realize. Like I truly believe that your body holds on to stuff. So anyway, with that being said, I know a lot of people reacted more to the different things they were no longer able to do and the different restrictions and like wearing masks, not wearing masks, whatever. With that being said, Bill Gates basically said, look at COVID, look at this pandemic, and then spread it out the pain for a longer period of time. And that is basically what climate change is going to do for us. Looking at the global mortality rate, so basically this pandemic and other pandemics have tended to increase the mortality rate by about 14 additional people per 100,000 people. And climate change in like around like 2050 or so is basically going to also increase it that same amount. So about 14 additional people will die because of climate related stuff out of 100,000 people. However, as climate change continues, if we don't do anything about it, by the end of the century, it's actually going to increase the death rate or the global mortality rate to around 75 additional people per 100,000. So this is not going to be very fun. Bill Gates talks about basically there's two things that we can do. We can adapt, like, okay, this is just how our world is going to be. And we can get used to it and figure out ways that we can change what types of crops we have for food and, all sorts of stuff like that. Or we can use mitigation and like actually try and fix the problem. And we really need to be doing both. And so the rest of the book was kind of about what we can do. And it focused mostly on mitigation, things we can do to like get to the root of the problem. So that's basically like all my notes that I have that I want to talk about, because like I said, my phone wouldn't play back the rest of the notes for me. Plus it started to get a little boring and was talking more about like big things that could be done as opposed to like little me, please tell me like what I can do. And so I think that was one of the things that I did not like about the book, is I felt like it was not focused on me as much. Like, I'm not in charge of a company and all this stuff. And there's this tiny section at the end that talked about, like, what can I do? So hearing all that other stuff was interesting. It just didn't really apply to me very much. It was just like good background knowledge, I guess. The thing that annoyed me about this book, partially that, like, you know, it wasn't really meant for me almost. But Bill Gates said, those who innovate will lead. And throughout this book, there's just this idea of like capitalism and like making money, and basically like there was truth to it. Like, why would people make cleaner decisions and stuff like that if it will cost them more money? And like, it was just so much money. And I get it, it makes sense, but I just didn't like that. And then he also kept like name dropping himself and his companies, and I just was like, okay, Bill, we know who you are. We know what you do. Thank you for saving the world. Maybe you should not have cheated on your wife a million times, but regardless, like, I just felt like it was a bit into himself and what he does and how he's saving the world. Yeah, but that being said, it did kind of motivate me to do another thing, which is I went online to my electric company and I made the move to basically pay extra to have all my energy for my apartment come from like renewable energy sources, which basically said if you use 1,000 kilowatt hours, it would raise your electric bill $14 a month, $14.40 I think. And I just went back and I looked at like, since I've lived in this apartment, and like my highest ever was like this past month, or maybe right now, but it was like 385 or something. So like, it's just like a few dollars. I think that my bill will go up, but that way at least I'm helping out in some way. And then obviously like being vegan, or as close to vegan as I can be when I don't cheat, helps a lot. Basically, who is this other guy? Jonathan Safran Foer. He's the last author I met before the pandemic started. Days before the pandemic started, to the extent where his experience was so much different than mine, because he was in a big city and I had a delayed response to what was happening, or like, I guess it took longer for stuff to reach us. Anyway, it gives me goosebumps. He wrote a book recently where he talked about like, basically there's 3 main things that people can do. Number 1, people cannot have babies. And like, obviously that's a really big decision to not have kids. And the other thing is like, what percentage of the population is choosing to have kids or not have kids, like at a given moment. Like, that's a decision that you kind of make a couple times in your life and you call it good. And most of the time people are not actively thinking, should we not, whatever. And then the other thing was not to travel so much. Well, obviously it's more difficult to travel now, but also like, yeah, people go on vacations and stuff like during ordinary times, but a lot of people have to travel for work, and it's not always a choice if you travel on a plane or not. And then the final thing was your diet. So he talked about how much your diet impacts climate change. And Bill Gates mentioned that a little bit, just not as much. So it was less on personal responsibility and it was a lot more on just our global community. So anyway, I gave that book 4 stars. It was good. It just wasn't amazing. So that's that.
Whole entire world. So that is a teeny tiny little smidgen of.
Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving.
Good morning. I just woke up and I want to show you basically why I don't need to buy any more books. So these are the ones that I intended to get to this month. Probably will not happen. More on that later. These are older window books, so Black, Indigenous, LGBTQ, anyone that is not white, cis, whatever. Me. Anyone who's not me. These are miscellaneous signed books that I haven't gotten to. This is miscellaneous nonfiction that I have not gotten to. Do you guys see why I don't need to buy any more books? Children's books that I haven't gotten to. Historical fiction, scary stuff, miscellaneous regular fiction. Books from last year's NPR Book Concierge list, which they changed the name, but I like the word concierge, so I'm going to keep calling it that. And other fiction that has been purchased since I moved into this apartment. Let me give you a bit of a book update and stuff like that, how my reading goals are going and all that stuff. Okay, so for the Now That's What I Call Summer Readathon, I basically cheated my way to finishing 3 books. So I finished basically the undercover reading one, which basically I used my Bill Gates book for, because climate change is a mystery that needs to be solved. Then that was the most recent one I did. Then I also did a book that takes place in summer, and I counted the new, the cafe book, the cafe in Tokyo where you time travel. I counted that book for that one, Before the Coffee Gets Cold, but the sequel to that. Then I also read, I used as my graphic novel, I used the new Diverse Spines book. So I have 3 done using my cheating, and 2 more that I need to do as far as book related things. Then I still need to do all the crazy things like do a dance party, eat cereal in my PJs, and watch cartoons. I'm not gonna watch cartoons. I'm gonna actually watch vintage shows that I watched as a kid and then see if they hold up or not, but that's for another weekend. Anyway, so the 2 that I still have to do is a book about cool teens, and which I wonder if I can stretch. I'm reading Leave the World Behind right now. I'm wondering if I can stretch that to be about cool teens, because one of the teens, she loves to read, and I think she's so cool because she loves to read. A book I wanted to read as a kid but never got to. So yeah, I only have 2 more and I'll be done with the reading prompts. Now, Leave the World Behind is a really good, okay, let me rephrase this. I don't know that I would call it really good. It's compulsively readable, and I don't know why, because it's not really that exciting. The characters are not growing at all, really, that I can see. Basically, what happens in the story, I'm listening to it, by the way, but what happens in the story is that there's this family, they're white, upper middle class, of a mom, a dad, and then a son and a daughter who are both teenagers. They go on vacation, they rent this home. Well, they're just living their best life, pretending that it's their house and that they're super wealthy. When all of a sudden there's a knock at the door, and basically the owners of the house come back and they're like, hey, something has happened in the world and we need our house back. You are welcome to stay here, but we're gonna stay here too. So then it's the 4 adults and the 2 kids just living their life at this house, trying to figure out what's going on in the world. And that sounds super, super interesting, but I will say this is kind of more literary fiction in that it's just kind of slower. Not a lot is really going on. There's a few things. The white parents, especially the mom, are just basic, nice white people where they're doing all sorts of humiliating, horrible, racist things without realizing it because they think they're being nice. Especially the name. So the couple that owns the home and that's super wealthy, they are both black, and basically the mom is I think the dad too, they're both so surprised that the people that own this house that they basically aspire to be one day could end up being black. And then the guy's name who owns the home is George Washington, and that's just constantly a thing that the mom of the family keeps talking about. Like, she just thinks it's so funny. His name is George Washington, and he's black. And that's so funny. And then she's like talking that, oh, did anyone ever tell you that you look like Denzel Washington? His last name is Washington too. Are you guys related? That's so funny. Just like all this stuff. The dad at one time goes off trying to figure out what's going on. And as he's driving, he comes across this woman that's like dressed in a polo shirt and khakis. And he was like, well, she could be in leisure wear, except that she has brown skin, so it's probably like a work uniform. And then she starts speaking Spanish to him, and he is just so condescending, like mentally, about, like, it sounds like she's speaking gibberish, and he only knows English. Like, he's so cool because he only knows one language. Like, it's just... it's really common thinking, but it's just so annoying. And then hopefully after I finish, I will be hanging out with Dee Dee and whoever else joins her Cocoon Patreon book chat. I would highly recommend that you guys participate in that. I will find some way to link like the info on how to sign up. That is the one thing in this Know by Year, like, there's a few book categories I'm keeping. I am still going to be involved in the Parnassus First Edition Book Club, which sends me a signed first edition every month. And I also am still going to do Dee Dee's book club because, like, just so amazing. So amazing. All right, guys, I'm going to stop the vlog here. I just got done hanging out with Dee Dee and a whole bunch of other people. I will link who I can below. Who participated in the little cocoon chat, because like it was so fun to get to know different people and I really enjoyed it. So definitely you guys should join. Like, so much fun. I'm so grateful for this group. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it here and like get ready for bed and whatever. Like Dee Dee, it was like 9 p.m. her time when we started because she lives in France, and then like it was only supposed to last an hour and she carried it on for 2 hours. I don't know if it's normally 2 hours or what. I thought it was only 1 hour. So it was like probably, like, it's probably going to be midnight by the time she gets to bed. But anyway, it was perfect time for me. Like, it's like the end of the afternoon. It started at 4 p.m. my time. Now it's like, well, now it's almost 7 because I got distracted. But anyway, I'm going to just like wind down for bed and spend some cozy time reading tonight. So I will catch up with you guys later. Bye.